best lives. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RBG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. We've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Green flag, let's go. Come on boys, it's time to put on a show. Caution's out, oh no, to the back of the pack is where we go. Slide jobs, slide ways is how we like to spend most of our days. Bump draft, bumper hook, we knew going in that's the risk we took. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. We're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. No drama, race tough, keep it clean to the end might be enough. White flag, checker flies out here with our friends living our best lives. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. Down. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Race tough, keep it clean to the end might be enough. White flag, checker flies out here with our friends living our best lives. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RBG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. No lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Green flag, let's go. Come on boys, it's time to put on a show. Caution's out, oh no, to the back of the pack is where we go. Slide jobs, slide ways is how we like to spend most of our days. Bump draft, bumper hook, we knew going in that's the risk we took. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. No drama, race tough, keep it clean to the end might be enough. White flag, checker flies, out here with our friends living our best lives. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Race tough, keep it clean to the end might be enough. White flag, checker flies, out here with our friends living our best lives. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the 2026 Rolling Thunder Gaming All-Star Race Superspeedway style. That's right, folks. We are just mere days away from getting season 68 started for the respective series here in Rolling Thunder Gaming from Mondays through Thursday nights. And we are getting ready here for the second of the All-Star races this week. Monday night, it was the Speedway All-Star race. And tonight, we're at the high banks of Talladega for the Superspeedway All-Star race. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Jack Mitchell. And Jack, last All-Star race, Monday night, we ended up seeing the race leader blow a tire. We ended up seeing a driver run out of fuel from the front. And we ended up seeing some incredible pit strategy in the closing stage. And that was all in the final lap. Unpredictability under the lights at Iowa, a short track. Now we transition here to Talladega, a super speedway, where I think unpredictability is an understatement with this type of a race. And 25 drivers going to take this green, but only 3 can race their way in via transfer spots. You talk about a high-pressure situation here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to look in the racing dictionary and you were to turn to the word unpredictability, you would find a picture of Talladega Superspeedway. This track, it's going to be all kinds of chaos. There's room for 3 wide. We'll see 3 wide more than likely throughout the whole course of the race. We'll probably see some 4 wide as well. And like you said, only 3 spots to be able to race your way into. So a lot of pressure on these drivers if they really want to make it into the All-Star race.
A lot of pressure, and also, a little bit of an expedited strategy as well. Normally on Thursday nights in the Talladega Challenge Series, there's 66 laps of racing here. Tonight, only 29 laps in this All-Star Open to be able to get the job done. And pit road will more than likely come into play if we trend on the side of green flag racing. So, not only do you have the pressure of what takes place up here on the racing surface above the double yellow line, but a lot can predetermine whether you're going to be all-star racing in the main event tonight with what occurs on pit road.
Absolutely, and it can be a lot more difficult to kind of make that strategy. Obviously, 29 laps, they've got just enough time to make 1 pit stop, but that pit stop timing, probably I would say a lot of drivers might try to shoot for around halfway through, but then again, you never know. Some drivers might try to get unpredictable with pit road strategy as well and try something a little bit more adventurous than they normally could. And you might also see more adventurous moves on the racetrack as well when you consider the fact that these drivers, again, only a few laps to try to work their way into the All-Star race. And a lot of people would want to be known as the Superspeedway All-Star race winners. So see what these drivers have up their sleeves, any kind of tricky strategies, secrets, things like that.
19 drivers are already locked into the All-Star race. We'll see them later on tonight. 3 drivers will transfer into the All-Star race via podium finishes here in this open, and 2 other drivers will be making their way into the field as well via votes. We've got the fan vote for the first time here this season. That's right, you folks watching here at home, you will get the opportunity to vote in your favorite driver into the All-Star race. We'll be going down the list of those respective drivers here in just a few moments, and we will be tallying up the votes between now and the checkered flag. And then, Jack, you and I have been bestowed the honor of commentators' vote as well, so we know that at least 5 drivers will be transferring from this All-Star Open into tonight's main event. But it's time to gear up. 29 laps is the path for these drivers here, and their hopes of participating in tonight's All-Star race. Javier Negron's Toyota, Robert Breedlove's Chevrolet. The All-Star Open is green. It's like manufacturers lined up here in the first 2 rows. Toyota's with Negron and Ricky on the bottom. Chevy's up top with Breedlove and Tim Anderson. And we've seen in the past here, drivers have photo finishes for the race lead, the race win. It's going to be really interesting to eye around the battle for 3rd place, because it could be double wide, 3 wide when they come around to take the checkered flag with the racing we are used to seeing here on Thursday nights.
I think it's pretty good that you and I are both in the server kind of spectating by ourselves, because that means we can have an easier time keeping track of who's going to battle for that transfer spot.
No points, no championship up for grabs here. It's all about one of those top 3 positions. So for Robert Breedlove and Javier Negron, yeah, they're battling side by side. Breedlove was able to just barely nick Javier Negron at the start-finish line, but we would normally call that a bonus point for the 931. There's nothing like that hanging in the balance on the table here, as we're already making some moves up here at the front. Saw Jessica Loreley up top there, Doug Hulick, Randy Waz jumped up there along with Robert Breedlove.
Somebody went below the apron for a moment. Couldn't quite tell who it was.
I think some connection problems maybe for the 28 of Mark Paglia. I saw him blinking, so that might have been his race car, maybe trying to get out of harm's way as he's in the middle of that pack. So as they got 3 wide there, kind of stalled out both the middle and the outside line. Inside line prevails, and the top 4 are now all single file. Negron, Ricky, Bernie Mobbs now moves up into 3rd. Greg Lovell into the 4th position. There's a lot of drivers that are participating here in this open race that we have seen go to victory lane on numerous occasions on Thursday nights. I mean, Greg Lovell there in the 880, he was one of our playoff contenders for the championship back in season 67 of the Talladega Challenge Series, but just couldn't find victory lane and having to try to transfer his way into the All-Star race via this open.
Kind of the 3 wide action looks like it's kind of migrated towards the rear of the field so far in the early going. I think everybody's just kind of still in that feeling out process. There's still kind of a little bit of feeling out process when you're at a racetrack like Talladega. It might not seem that way, but that would be the case as drivers are kind of figuring out what lane they run best in, and it'll lead to a lot of early 2 wide action, but some drivers towards the back of the pack trying to do everything they can to advance in the early going. Again, we're only on lap 4 right now, not desperation just yet. I think, though, with this being a short race, you're going to see that desperation kick in a little bit earlier than you might expect.
Dennis McCarthy, that Jeff Gordon throwback, has now got himself quite a bit of help in that middle line. Now the outside line is their double file, the first, well, actually all the way through the field now. I was going to say the first 6 or 7 rows, but then as you were talking about that 3 wide towards the rear of the field, that has evaporated now to gridlocked side by side, 2 by 2 all the way from the front to the rear of the field. McCarthy with a lot of good momentum up on that top side, and he's actually going to draw alongside of Javier Negron down the back straightaway. Might actually get him cleared by the time they get into 3.
Going to do everything he can, but just like that, bottom line is fighting back, jockeying for position, and Javier Negron going to be side by side with him as they enter the tri-oval. This is going to be close for the lap lead.
Ooh!
Man.
That was too close to even call live. What does scoring say? It gives it to the Toyota nose of Negron.
Imagine that with a finish.
Whew. Well, it'd be exciting, but it wouldn't really matter because both drivers would have transferred. See them trying a third line further back there. Jessica Lorley up on the top side there. It's like Rod Weston there as well. A couple of others further back. I think David Little might be trying to get up there, as well as Glenn Harris. Cody Lamas now migrating his way up to that third line, just trying to get something to happen because, again, with knowing that there's at least a round of pit stops looming and this being calculated half the distance, less than half the distance of a race on Thursday nights under normal Talladega Challenge Series stipulations, it's not a whole lot of time for drivers to be able to try and gain that track position. And we've been told with this combination of car and track, it makes it really easy for drivers to draft, to be able to push, but it's also made it somewhat difficult for drivers middle to rear of the field to be able to make forward progress quickly. It's a slow, painstaking, methodical process.
And you especially don't want to be in the situation that the 23 and the 11 are finding themselves in right now, as both of those cars are stuck in the middle. As I think it was Cody Lamas, somebody went up to the high side to form that line that you see, and those two cars in the middle are kind of getting sucked right now. It's contact to the front. Oh boy, here he goes.
This is going to be a corner wreck, and it's going to be a big one. Nearly a dozen drivers collected. Supta just clipped Glenn Harris. David Little's involved. Doug Hulick is involved. Jessica Lorley is in it. Robert Spring, Mark Paglia, who I think was the car that first got out of shape, as well as Rod Weston. And that was up at the very front of the field, and it had ramifications all the way back to the mid-pack and rear of the field of that lead group.
Point, Mark Paglia, the first car around, and just couldn't quite save it in all that traffic.
Gonna go back and take a look at a replay. From the initial view, it almost looked like they didn't quite get the bumpers lined up correctly, exiting off the tri-oval. I saw Dennis McCarthy move up, and I think he and Mark Paglia, who was the car pushing him, they might have bumper grabbed, which eventually led to the 28 snapping as it did down to the inside and causing that melee into the entrance of turn one.
Almost wonder if this was maybe a bit of a chain reaction. I can see some cars already a little bit out of shape there, and then that's when Paglia gets up into the wall and he can save it, and there's nowhere for anybody else to go.
That was a big hit. Front end first for Jeff Supta in the 11 car. A lot of drivers kind of got squeezed up into the outside wall with nowhere to go. We had talked about the fact there were a number of drivers up there trying to formulate a third lane. When you got a car that's sliding up there to the outside wall, there's not a whole lot of available exit routes. We're going to go to the helicopter cam. You talked about the chain reaction. It almost looked like maybe Paglia was getting a good push from Robert Breedlove, who in turn was getting a good push from Randy Waugh. And
Luigi,
when he went to the right rear quarter panel of McCarthy, that move up to try and play defense, that's what led to the chain bumping, and unfortunately the bumpers just weren't even.
Yeah, there were about, like, what, 5, 6 cars that were kind of in that chain reaction type formation. It looked like almost kind of like a diagonal line behind the 28 car, and it was just a result of everybody was kind of getting too good of a push.
This is a look on board from the Bass Pro Shops number 11 of Jeff Supta, who was in the middle with Doug Hulick, both of them involved in this wreck. Oh, just comes down and clips the 8 of Glenn Harris, who nearly snuck his way through. Caution is out for the first time here in this All-Star Open. Bunch of the drivers involved gonna come down and hope that their damage repair will be quick and not affect them the remainder of this race. I mentioned this back in the All-Star Open on Monday night. With there being really no pressure of points or championship on the line, as long as the engine's still running, you're almost obligated to go out there and continue to log laps, because with the unpredictability of Superspeedway racing, that may not be our last caution, and who knows, if you're in the right place at the right time and able to snake your way through a big wreck in the closing stages, you could find yourself on the other end in one of those transfer spots.
Absolutely. I mean, I've talked about it before all the time, and basically a lot of the races that we've broadcasted together, I've talked about how you just kind of have to soldier on in those moments like that. You don't want to get caught up in the early wreck, but at the same time, especially I think is the case with no points on the line of this race as well, just keep going. You never know what can happen in a race, especially at a racetrack. I think that's more apparent than ever at a racetrack like Talladega, where anything can happen, and you never know. You could find yourself on the right side of the transfer line if you can keep it going, and we'll see what some drivers are able to come up with. It's still plenty of time to go in this race, so not a whole lot.
Well, the importance of the timing of this yellow flag is more than likely, as you see Chris Elliott come to pit road to what should be the 1 to green this time by, this caution more than likely, we were far enough into the race that the pit stop that everybody just made should see them clear to the finish. Now, I say should see them clear because we're more than likely going to end up getting the green flag if the lights do go out here. We're going to more than likely be getting the green flag with 18 laps to go. We normally talk about that the fuel window for these drivers is between 18 to 20 laps. So more than likely, everybody's going to be able to make it to the finish. The one thing I would be a little concerned about is if a driver ends up being out in front the entirety of this run. That would put them right maybe on the minimal number of 18 laps that they can go on fuel. So it will be interesting to see if there's some gamesmanship up here at the front of the field of maybe a driver leading a portion and then dropping back to be able to save that little bit of fuel they need to be able to get to the conclusion.
Yeah, that's the one thing to think about with drivers and who are in that situation is you're not saving when you're at the front of the field. You're the one who's constantly on the gas pedal the entire time, and it can take a lot more out of your car being at the front versus anywhere else on the track. So I think you would rather be in line in that situation than anywhere else.
Answer Rodney's question, it is 2x tonight for the All-Star Open drivers, and it will be the same in the All-Star race as well. Mentioned it. When these drivers are getting ready to go green, you, the folks at home, get to decide the fate of a driver here tonight, whether they will be All-Star Racing or not. First time that RTG for the Superspeedway All-Star Race is implementing the fan vote. We've already got some votes that have come in. If there's a driver that you would like to see participate in the All-Star Race that may not necessarily be able to race their way in via one of the top 3 transfer spots this evening, be sure to put their name or their number in the comments. We'll keep the running tally here, and we'll have the announcement of who the fan vote winner is during our first of 2 post-race wind-downs at the close of this All-Star Open in preparation for the All-Star Race. We'll also just let everybody know as well, we do not have a set time for when the All-Star Race itself will be going green. They'll have about a 10-minute break in between the checkered flag of the All-Star Open. They'll have a qualifying session, a 5-minute happy hour, and then they will take the green flag. We will more than likely go into an FRN race break at some point of that time. But we will also be talking with our podium finishers and also dialing up the drivers that get in via the fan vote and the commentators' votes. So be sure to stay tuned for all that as Dante Ricky gets us back under the green flag, officially 18 laps to go. We'll get a good idea here as drivers get up to full song of those involved in that wreck. Who sustained minimal damage and might be able to remain up to speed in the draft. Who sustained major damage and might be relying on this being a continued race of attrition to keep their hopes of a transfer spot alive, at least for the time being. It looks like Jeff Supta might be one of those drivers. Had a lot of front-end damage from that incident that could be losing the draft here.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eye on the back of the pack right now, and I don't really see a whole lot of drivers outside of the 11 car kind of losing the draft, but Supta not really got up to speed. And yeah, I can see kind of Jess as well is kind of starting to fall off as well. He was up to speed on the early stages of that restart, but now it looks like, oh, as I say that, it looks like she's regaining a little bit on the high side. I mean, that gorgeous Jamie McMurray throwback looked a little bit less gorgeous after the crash, but looks like she's gotten it about as fixed up as she possibly can.
Yeah, obviously you a Jamie McMurray fan, and our broadcast colleague Kyle Matthews was a big fan of that race car as well. As we're 3 wide back here. This is for the 4th position. Correction, the 5th position. So this would be 2 spots outside of a transfer spot. That's McCarthy, Robert Brila, Bernie Mobbs. They were 3 wide. They've settled it out to double file formation. The driver right now with all the pressure is the 880 of Greg Lovell. And you kind of go to what we've talked about here on Thursday nights when it comes to the playoffs. Counting cars, trying to put yourself in the right scenario. If this is the guy I'm battling maybe for a transfer spot or ultimately for a championship. When it comes to the All-Star Open, the goal, I think, would probably be to be running 1st or 2nd. You don't want to be that 3rd place car because you're the one everybody's trying to pass. You're the last trip to the promised land of racing in via this event.
Yeah, my mind goes back to how the Talladega Challenge Championship was determined a couple Thursdays ago, because that was basically exactly how it happened when, Grant Wesley was battling with Chuck McClure, and Chuck basically baited Grant into going up to the high side and losing the draft, and that basically allowed Chuck to kind of pull away and make his way near the front of the field to win the title. I mean, that's the sort of thing that can happen when you know exactly who it is that you're battling on the racetrack, and that can pay dividends as to who comes out on top in the All-Star race, or in the All-Star Open, I should say, because you're going to know exactly who it is. If you know clearly that you're in 3rd or 4th place, you know who your direct competition is for that transfer spot at the time being.
Certainly do. As things were getting a little sketchier, middle of the pack, it is since sorted out, and now, at least up here towards the front, we're in a bit of an orderly single file formation. Bernie Mobbs is slotted into 4th behind that final transfer spot. Tim Anderson right behind him. Then Graham McDonald and John Godfrey, your current top 7, as Dante Ricky continues to show the way. We are now more than halfway through this All-Star Open. Again, folks, get in the chat there. Vote for your favorite driver. Driver with the most votes at the conclusion of this All-Star Open that does not transfer in through one of the top 3 positions will be participating in tonight's All-Star race. Interesting scenario coming into tonight's All-Star race as well. Only one defending winner from the past 2 years going to be involved, that being Brian Schilling, who ended up taking this Superspeedway All-Star race victory back in 2025. The 2024 All-Star race winner was Greg Palmer, but he's a little busy on the other side of the world, enjoying Italy and Greece and the Mediterranean, so I hope he's having a great time there, but unfortunately we will not see him here tonight, looking for his 2nd All-Star race in the last 3 years.
And it's a beautiful part of the world, though. We certainly hope he's enjoying his time there, and wish him all the best in that vacation.
I'm jealous because he's getting the authentic food. Like,
oh
my
yeah.
gosh, are you kidding me?
Italian pizza? Oh boy. I'm hungry now. I just ate and I'm hungry.
Even though there's that running debate that Italy actually didn't invent pizza, that Greeks did, but he's in Greece, so he can have authentic Greek pizza too.
Yeah, he can try Greek pizza. Lorelei found her way to the bottom of the racetrack, and she's starting to make her way back up through the field. I thought for a moment in the early part of this green flag run, she might have been losing traction on the high side, but she's found her way to the bottom and is slowly working her way towards the front of the field. Now it goes up high, gets in line right behind Mark Tagla, who hasn't really lost a lot of ground either, despite being at the centerpiece of that last wreck.
Yeah, a couple of other drivers who were in the middle of that as well. David Little, 2nd car on that outside line. His left side door was all caved in when he left the scene of the accident, but looks like that car still got enough power to be able to help try and push Tim Anderson around the outside line. Cody Lamas up there as well. So obviously you don't want to see any drivers get involved in a wreck, but it looks like for the most part, with the exception of Jeff Supta and now potentially Chris Elliott, like everybody still is up here in the conversation. Not sure exactly what happened to the Doritos Dodge. We saw him stay out. That extra lap under pacing to come down and top off the fuel tank. I don't know if he just maybe let off a little too much and lost the tail end of the draft, but now he and the 11 of Supta fall into the category of needing a lot of help to be able to get themselves up into one of those transfer spots, and there's not a whole lot of time for it to happen.
And I'm starting to see a little bit of drivers in the middle of this lead pack get a little bit antsy as well, knowing that we're about to be under 10 to go here. So not a whole lot of time left to make the moves you need to make to try to work your way up towards the front. I mean, if your drivers like the ones I just mentioned, Mark Paglia, Jessica Lorley, Michael Norman's not that far behind them either. A couple of other drivers in this mix, they want to work their way up to the front of the field, but I don't really know how much time they feel like they have. And you got to go from this point forward. You don't want to be lagging behind with only about 5 laps left.
Terry Bombard has now lost the draft in the 10 car, and Glenn Harris could be in danger of the same. They're 3 wide ahead of him, so maybe he can get enough of a tow to draft back up to the tail end of this lead pack, as here comes John Godfrey up on the top side. He's going to get at least alongside of Bernie Mobbs, and there you see Greg Lovell move up. He realizes if the 7-11 gets alongside of him, that's the battle for the transfer spot, so he's going to move up there more than likely in a defensive position to try and advance further up in the top 3.
Michael Norman made his way to the bottom, and his car wiggled a little bit. That could have been a disaster on the bottom of the racetrack, so close to the banking.
All eyes pretty much fixated on this area of the field. Seems kind of a little bit of a disservice to the job that Dante Rookie and Javier Negron have been able to do in terms of pacing this field both pre and post that caution. They have been in the top 2 positions pretty much the entirety of this race, looking good to have a couple of Toyota Camrys represent in the All-Star race, but there's still going to be this next time by 8 laps to go. Can they keep this thundering herd in the rearview mirrors?
Plenty of time for anything to happen. Look at the move off the racetrack. Might have hit the wall a little bit.
And that didn't help. Anyway, oh gosh!
Big crash.
Massive hit for Greg Lovell and Cody Lamas. Godfrey's involved along with Robert Spring and Glenn Harris.
And Jeff Supta, I don't know if he got caught up in something back there, but he's lost the engine. That might be a completely separate incident on its own, but man, disaster unfolding here in the late stages of this one.
There is the 11 that you were just talking about. Yeah, you see the smoke billowing out from underneath that race car. You got to wonder if maybe the damage he had from the earlier wreck, if the engine finally just gave up the ghost, was turning too high of revs. But we were talking about Greg Lovell. He was, for a good portion of that run, in the 3rd and final transfer position. We saw all that moving and shaking up in the upper lanes through the tri-oval. And ultimately in turn 1, Lovell damaged. Cody Lamas is already out of the race. And a number of other drivers collected up in this one. That's going to set us up for a shootout here to close out this open.
I am really curious to know what happened with the 11 car, but I'm sure we'll go back and check. But yeah, I'm pretty obvious what happened here at the front. Just a lot of jockeying for position, and saw Greg Lovell go around at the end of it all. They went up. You see Greg kind of migrating to the top of the racetrack to try to block that run to the top, try to take advantage of that run, and then he slowly drifts his way to the bottom. And that's a hard hit.
It's like Cody was getting pushed by Doug Hulick and may have given a little late bump to Greg Lovell going into the entrance of turn 1. You saw it get the 880 sideways, bounce down off the door of the driver to his inside, and then back up the racetrack. That was a violent hit for both Lovell and Lamas into that outside wall.
Cody's in our chat saying that he tried for us. He's trying to win our driver vote.
A lot of these guys were up there in the conversation for a transfer spot too. John Godfrey, we saw him make his way up into the top 5 before he was starting to fall back. And just some of these other guys back here that were minding their business, maybe waiting for the opportunity. It's a lot of front-end damage on the 8 of Glenn Harris. A lot of damage on the back end of the 74 of Robert Spring. And let's see if we can find the moment where Jeff Supta had his mechanical problem, running all by himself, and this was just almost at the exact same time that the wreck occurred. He's all the way back here. I think this was going into turn 3. And I think this is just a case of that car had too much damage. The high speed it was carrying. Oh, no, actually, the wreck happens in his rearview mirror right there. He was coming off of turn 2.
Not totally certain what happened there, but yeah, I think your explanation is probably the best one we'll get, as it looked like that car just kind of gave up after all that damage. Just saying, that's a tough break for Jeff Supta. They're running most of this race in the back. Not really with the pace of anybody else. I feel like maybe if that never happened to him, that's just such an unlucky break, because I feel like there's a small chance that if that never happened to him, that might have given him a chance to go to pit road, maybe fix up the car a little bit more. Just maybe could have been in good conversation for a transfer spot, but ultimately won't get that shot.
Now, when that caution came out, and this is something that the drivers have to be aware of the entirety of the night, when a yellow flag waves, all cautions are raced back. Normally, on Thursday nights, prior to 15 to go, all cautions are frozen field. Well, Dante Ricci won the battle back to the stripe, but Bernie Mobbs was able to edge Javier Negron to get the second spot. So Javier will line up in third with Graham McDonald and Randy Waugh in the top 5. Almost wonder, could be wrong, almost wonder though if that could have been by design by Javier, realizing that if the 31 gets around him, gets second, that lines the 84 and the 40 back up nose to tail like they've been the entirety of this All-Star Open.
Dante Ricci has been doing a heck of a job, by the way, at the front of the field as well, and dominating this race. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from the way he's been running, because we didn't really look at the pit stops that time around, but he's still able to maintain the lead coming off of pit road and is in really good position to try to find the checkered flag in this Open. A lot of fan votes in the chat, by the way, for the 7-Eleven of John Godfrey, so he's in a pretty good position right now to win this fan vote, but it is not too late to get your votes in. If you think that the 7-Eleven or somebody else should get in via the fan vote, be sure to leave it in the chat below.
Yeah, seeing a lot of votes as well from Mark Paglia. Jeff Supta's got some votes there as well, so it might be really close for this fan vote. And again, as Jack said, you got until the checkered flag waves on lap 29 to get your votes in and get a driver locked into this year's All-Star Race event, as it looks like we're going to have a total of 22 drivers of our original 25 that will take this green flag. Greg Lovell, Cody Lamas, Jeff Supta, all out of the race and going to be relying potentially on fan vote here to be able to make their way into the 2026 Superspeedway All-Star Race. It's going to be a 4-lap shootout to decide it all, and I think we are within the window here where the next flag would end the race. So if a wreck happened, they'd race back the stripe, and more than likely the race would end under caution. Right now, Dante Ricci, Bernie Mobbs, and Javier Negron, they are in the transfer spots, first, second, and third. But Graham McDonald, Randy Waugh, Michael Norman, Robert Breedlove, Mark Paglia is up here in the top 10, along with Doug Hewlett, Keith Bynum. That's your first 5 rows. And there's still about another half dozen drivers behind them that are still up to speed that have a shot. Remember, you don't have to win. You just got to finish in third place or better.
And if you don't win the fan vote, then you have to appease us somehow.
That's right.
Great restart for Dante Ricci.
Yeah, we mentioned about the fact there's no bonus points for laps led or most laps led, but Dante has put on a clinic. That time by was his 14th lap led of this race. Next closest driver to him in terms of laps led, the driver right behind him, Javier Negron. He's only led 6.
Look at Michael Norman up to the top of the racetrack, going to try and get that outside lane going here. He might as well try something. He was kind of stuck in the middle of that pack there, the front of the field, with only a few laps left. Not getting a whole lot of help on that high side, though. We'll have to see if it comes into play later on.
Yeah, not a whole lot of momentum. Only he and Keith Bynum up on that top side. But to your point, too, if you ride behind somebody, that's all you're going to do.
Oh, he just
ride. Oh, gosh, up and over goes Michael Norman. Keith Bynum up and over as well. Caution's going to wave as Michael's car will not even land back on its wheels. Let's take you back up here to the front because this could be the race to the proverbial checkers. Look at Randy Wago up topside. He was in a transfer spot, but he wants more. Dante Ricky gets bumped. Up the middle, Bernie Mobbs. More wrecking.
I think that should do it.
Top three with a bit of a gap. Can Graham McDonald, can Des McCarthy? They're still wrecking.
Graham trying to fight his way through.
We're 3 wide. We're 4 wide. It's a Toyota 1-2-3 sweep. Hewlick was able to sneak his way through to snag the final spot behind Javier Negron and the All-Star Open winner, Dante Ricky.
I was not even thinking about Hewlick there, but the fact that that was just pure right place, right time as everybody surrounding him basically cleared themselves out trying to fight for that last transfer spot, and it ends up being Doug Hewlick who gets in. Holy cow.
Again, though, they only took the caution. We've still got 1.5 laps to traverse here. The white flag will be displayed next time by, so we can't give these transfer spots away just yet. Hopefully all the mechanics stay up to par here for them to be able to make their way around and officially clinch these transfer positions. But boy, there's a full lap that we have to unpack here because much like we ended up calling it on Monday night when we ended up having a number of wrecks that happened from turn 2, I think all the way over to turn 4, this is not the big one, folks. This is the long one.
A lap of absolute chaos at Talladega.
And it's going to start with our broadcast colleague, Michael Norman, who, as you said, was trying to make something happen up there on that outside line with Keith Bynum, and they're the two that end up being involved in this wreck.
Oh, man.
Yikes.
Just a hard hit. You said the word violent earlier for one of those wrecks. How about another one for Michael Norman as his car just slides to the bottom, does not get turned back upside down, so that's basically the end of his day. This next one happened at the front of the field. Drivers were kind of fighting for that last transfer spot.
I think it's going to be around Robert Breedlove and Bernie Mobbs. You see Bernie, he saw the gap.
Oh, not clear.
Mark Paglia, Robert Breedlove get involved. There you see David Little up ahead. He gets spun around. Oh, my goodness. He just flipped the 31 of Bernie Mobbs, who's actually tumbling in the grass. We'll get a camera on that. Oh, nowhere for Robert Spring to go. So one of the other things about it being a non-points event, drivers are going to be a lot more willing to go for those risky moves to try and get one of those transfer spots because they know that if it works, you know, maybe you're battling in the All-Star race later on tonight. If it doesn't work, well, you know that you gave it your all.
Absolutely. Only bragging rights on the line, nothing else. Yeah, that was Bernie Mobbs just seeing that he was clear in the middle. The other cars didn't really quite realized that they didn't have the space, and then one little bump. Oh, wow. Barrel rolling through the front stretch grass.
As soon as the grass caught the roof of that sit-go Chevrolet, it was on from there. And then let's watch this. We're going to go all the way back to turn 2. We're going to go on board with Doug Hewlick. Now, he crossed the start-finish line in the 9th position the lap prior. I think at the moment that we're watching, he's around 8th place. This is how he goes from 8th to a transfer spot.
Wreck in front of him, goes to the apron a little bit, keeps it straight, clear. Cars on the outside battling to try to get from that transfer spot.
He's 6th right now, going through the tri-oval.
There's that contact. Graham, I think, did not realize he was clear. Unlucky as heck for Randy Waugh as well. He barely got tagged from behind at the end of it. That was all it took to send his car around. I feel like maybe there was a chance he still could have crossed that line in third, but ultimately when the car went around, there was no chance.
Drivers all realized that that third spot was as good as winning the race. They were almost 4 wide for that third position. Nobody was going to lift. Everybody was full throttle. It was that old Andy Jankowiak line. I'm either going to see God or the checkered flag. Everybody had the pedal to the metal. And it looks like they just crossed the start-finish line to take the checkered flag here. We'll cut back to that as we were looking at the replay of what went down. This is what happened just moments ago. Dante Ricci does cross the line to win the Open, leading 20 of the 29 laps. Javi Negron, who was kind of his wingman all race, will get second, and Hulick, who we were on board with, going to literally snipe that third and final transfer position.
And that was just the opener.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Now we get the main course.
Oh, boy. Now Dante Ricci gets to celebrate here, but the job is not yet over. Stage 1 complete, but he's still got an all-star race checkered flag to fight for, along with Javi Negron and Doug Hulick. And how about that, the Toyotas sweeping the podium as well. I think that they may have been the only Toyotas in the field. No, David Little was also in the field, but the Toyotas were pretty outnumbered. Overcame the odds here, though. And we're going to see 3 of them participating here in just a few moments in the all-star race. This is the way that they all cross the start-finish line. Third place on up, they transfer in. Jeff Crivello going to be just short of a transfer spot in fourth. Dennis McCarthy, Perry Bond, Tim Anderson, Jessica Lorley, Rod West, and Chris Elliott. That was the top 10. You see a lot of the drivers out of the race. Majority of them involved in that final wreck that started from turn 1 and ended all the way over, crossing the start-finish line for what was eventually the race ending yellow. For 2 of those drivers there, fourth place on down, they still have an opportunity to be able to race in the All-Star race via one of the votes. One of them going to be up to you, the fans. One going to be up to us, the commentators. We're going to continue to tally up the votes here as far as the fan vote is concerned, and we'll announce the commentator vote here in just a few moments. But while we do all of that, it's time to dial up some drivers here in preparation for their All-Star races. Let's see if we can get a hold of maybe the luckiest driver here in Talladega so far tonight. Let's get a hold of Doug Hulick.
User was moved to your channel.
Hey, Doug, it's the guys up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Good evening, gentlemen. How you all doing tonight?
Well, I'll tell you what, we're doing good. I'll bet you're doing even better, though. We say it all the time when we come to a super speedway. Doesn't matter if it's Talladega. Doesn't matter if it's Daytona. It's all about putting yourself in the right place at the right time. You were 8th when you guys ended up taking what was eventually going to be the final lap under green. You were 6th going through the tri-oval. You crossed the line in the 3rd position. My friend, you're going all-star racing.
Woohoo! I know, wasn't it amazing? I was like thankful that, people want to be aggressive and try to get there, but, they just seem to part the ways, and the old Black Flag 23 Toyota, painted by Rodney Sellens, booked on through that gap.
Certainly did. I mean, obviously, we knew coming into tonight, no points on the line, no championship on the line. There's only one goal specifically here in the All-Star Open, and it's finish in one of those top 3 positions. We saw a lot of moving and shaking, maybe more than we're used to on a regular Thursday night. Do you expect to have a lot more of the same in the upcoming All-Star race?
Definitely going to be a little bit, definitely a larger field, I think, and some of the all-stars are out there, so I'm privileged to get a chance to run with them as always, and just looking to put the 23 in a good position again.
It's interesting. We covered the Monday night race as far as the Speedway All-Star race, and there were some differences, frequency and everything between the Open and the All-Star race, but I asked some of the transferees if there was anything from the Open that they could then apply into the All-Star race. I don't know if it's really a legitimate question to ask that here with it being a super speedway, but from where you qualified here in this open to having to work your way from mid-pack back up to the front and of course be able to have the wreck avoidance when it was absolutely the optimal time. Is there anything from what you were able to gauge from this field that you'll then be able to apply in this upcoming All-Star race?
Well, I'm not a low liner person. I really don't like the inside line, but the inside line, you definitely seem to stay more steady. When it gets three wide, both the upper lanes seem to suck back and that low line can go. And that just, continued to happen tonight with this pre-race. Like to work with some teammates, but I'm not sure there's a ton of teammates out there. Javier's did well, finished second, so he'll be out there. Man, there's some teammates out there, and hopefully we'll be able to pick up them and have a good show.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the job well done there, Doug. We'll let you get back to it, get into the mindset. You're ready to go All-Star Racing. Congratulations transferring here in this All-Star Open. Before we let you go, though, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Shout out to my teammates, the Team Wrecking Ball, the RTG guys that run this thing. It's always a good event, fun to come out. Looking forward to next season. All the military members out there in the world doing what they do, keep them safe. And my daughter up in New York, looking forward to my first grandchild coming in August. And just thank God for allowing us to have fun out here.
Well, Doug, congratulations once again on transferring into the All-Star race. Enjoy it. We look forward to seeing what this 23 is able to do. Maybe find yourself in the right place at the right time for a second time here this evening at Talladega.
That would be exciting. I appreciate you guys talking with me, and you have a good night and good call.
That's Doug Hulick. We'll be seeing
User was
him
moved out of your
participating with the other drivers already locked into the All-Star race here in just a few moments. Again, as we said, we don't have a set time for when the green flag's going to fly for the All-Star race. They got to get some preliminary stuff out of the way. But let's see if we can now get a hold of the second place finisher. He's also going to be All-Star racing here. Let's get a hold of the pole sitter from the Open, Javier Negron.
User was moved to your channel.
Javier, it's the guys up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
I got a copy, guys.
Man, I'll tell you what, kind of seemed like the plan here was start at the front, stay at the front. You were able to do just that, and all the chaos basically happened behind you. You and Dante pretty much had this field well in hand, whether it was you leading him or him leading you. Was that pretty much the plan from the get-go? And now, what's the relief like knowing that you've got yourself locked into this All-Star race?
Well, it is a relief now. It was very stressful. My plan was to, since it was just a short lap for this race. I'm not usually one to want to qualify, so with the short amount of laps, I figured I got to qualify up front to have a chance to get in the top three. So when I got the first place qualifying, I was like surprised. And then I was just hoping that somebody would just stay with me, and Dante decided to stay with me, and I was grateful for that. So then when he had the opportunity to get first, I was behind him, and he gave me the same respect, and he helped me out a lot during that whole race.
Obviously, first part of the job is completed. You were able to get the pole position here in this race, and we know that you drivers are going to get the opportunity to set the qualifying order for the All-Star race as well. If you're able to lay down another flyer lap like that and have good starting track position, how well do you think the opportunity is you can maybe, again, just keep and maintain the position up at the front of the field?
I'll be really surprised if I get like top two, because there's a lot of the drivers that are really good in qualifying weren't in that race. So if I could get into like the top between 10 or 15 in the middle, I'll be good with that. I'm not really used to running up front, especially with that amount of cars yet. I like to relax in the back or towards the middle. So I'm just looking to get qualify around 8 to 10 around there.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how you do here. Congratulations once again on transferring into the All-Star race through maybe one of the tougher All-Star Opens that we end up seeing, with it being Superspeedway racing. We'll let you get back to it and get set for 47 laps of racing here now, with 29 laps under your belt. But before we do, Javier, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
I'd like to thank Wrecking Ball, my daughter, my wife, Youssef, for the guys at Tarnation that does this all the time, and hopefully for a good race.
That's Javier Negron. Brings it home second place here in the All-Star Open. That's enough for him to transfer and be a part of the All-Star race festivities. Congratulations once again. Best of luck.
All right, thank you, guys.
User was moved out of
One
your
last
channel.
driver to talk to that transferred into this All-Star race. Led over 20 laps here today. See if we can dial up Dante Ricky, All-Star Open winner.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Dante, it's the guys up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Yes, good evening, Seth and Jack. We want to know who that third and final fan vote is.
Yeah, we're going to be getting that all announced here in just a moment. But, my friend, I'll tell you what. Normally, we would expect that drivers would have to absolutely claw and scratch their way to a transfer spot, but it seemed as soon as you got your Toyota Camry out there in clean air, it was on from there. Nobody else was able to even challenge you. You ended up leading 20 laps of this one. Was it as easy as it looked? Because I'll tell you what, it seemed like you had a clinic on this field.
I'll tell you what, I got to give Javier Negron a lot of credit. He had a fast race car tonight. He qualified 2/1000ths of a second faster than my Jersey Mike's Toyota. He'd done a great job to stay up in the pack, and he and I worked really well together. I want to keep this brief because, yes, that clean air was a key to success, and the track position ended up being extremely important. I had a splash after that caution with about 22 to go. I probably would have made it, but it would have been close. The yellow that came out later sealed the deal. I really want to give Javier a lot of credit. He drafted with me very well. I pushed him, he pushed me. In the end of the race, I had to make a move to make sure that I stayed in the lead. And poor Randy Wall, I really want to give him a shout out too. He should have made the race. It looked like there was a wreck somewhere near the transfer spot that probably should not have happened. And it's very unfortunate that he's not in the race outright. I want to give him my dearest thoughts, and I'm going to try my best to win it for you tonight.
Well, Dante, obviously, complete polar opposite this All-Star Open to the All-Star race. I couldn't really call it a dash, 29 laps, but a lot can happen, obviously, between lap 1 to the completion of lap 29.
Yes.
Now we've got 47 laps coming up here. Do we end up seeing a lot more of the same, do you think, here from All-Star Open to All-Star Race? Basically, for the main portion of the fact that there's no points and there's no championship really hanging in the balance, or do you think now we end up seeing a little bit more of the longer green flag runs, pit road coming into play here? What side of the spectrum do you kind of see this All-Star Race going, having now participated in the All-Star Open precursor?
Well, I'd like to see a little more green flag racing. I'd like to see the lines move more evenly and a little bit more dominance at the middle and times to go down to the bottom. It seemed like that the outside line was not a factor in that race simply because a lot of cars went up and people cut that line off. I'm hoping that we have a little more common sense in this one, that we end up with some smarter decision making up front ultimately to get people to lead. And I do think it will be aggressive. This is an opportunity to take risks, but most importantly, it's all for the win. There's no reason to finish second. You're here to have fun, and we want everybody to enjoy it. That's the most important thing. And congratulations, Doug Holick, on his transfer in the third position as well. And also congratulations, Doug, for his ASR win on Saturday night.
Well, as you say,
We'll
3
keep it
drivers
there.
transferred in to this All-Star Open, but now with this All-Star race, there's only one position that matters, and that's P1. You finish P1 here in this All-Star Open, so maybe you go for the All-Star race sweep here, Superspeedway
yes.
style. We'll have to wait and see. Wish you the best of luck
I'm
on
gonna
that,
try,
Dante.
Seth. Remember, I did cross the line first in 2021 and 2022. I only got
That's
to
true.
keep 22, though.
That's
So
true.
we'll
Hey,
do our best. All right, we'll keep it there.
definitely
Thank
see
you.
if
Thank
you're
you to
able to.
everybody. I want to hear who that third vote is. Thank you, guys.
Yep, absolutely. That's Dante Ricky. He brings it home with the victory here in the All-Star Open. And now he'll get ready
User was
to
moved out of your channel.
prepare himself along with Javier Negron and Doug Hewlick for the All-Star race. Two other drivers, though, have locked themselves into the All-Star race. Let's see if we can first dial up the driver that's going to get in via the fan vote. You all voted in our chat. Let's get a hold of this guy here.
User was moved to your channel.
John Godfrey. You got a copy, my friend?
I got you, Seth.
Well, I got news for you. You're going all-star racing. The fans have spoken, and this 7-Eleven has been voted as the fan vote into the 2026 Superspeedway All-Star Race.
Seth, I did not see that one coming, buddy, but thank you to all the fans who made this possible. I'm going to the big show.
Indeed you are. I mean, we saw you up there battling, trying to get that transfer spot. You were leading a pretty good lane in that second groove before we saw you ultimately get involved in a wreck and have to finish out the race with damaged goods. But what were you able to kind of learn there with the, I guess, the sense of urgency that was all the way through the field? And how do you think that's going to transfer here into the All-Star race?
Yeah, you said it right there. That's the theme of the night, the sense of urgency. It's dog eat dog, but the racing was good. I just made I tried to jump up in front of that third line, and it just didn't work out for me, but I'm here.
Well, John, obviously, congratulations on transferring in via the fan vote. We're going to let you get yourself now into the mindset of getting ready to go all-star racing, but first we'll turn it over to you for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Thank you to RTG for putting on this great event. Thank you guys at Flatout Racing Network for the outstanding coverage you give us. And thanks to everybody back at the shop. Give me a fast race car. Well, hopefully a fast backup car because the primary was destroyed, but we'll see.
Well, John Godfrey, he is the fan vote winner. He's getting ready to go all-star racing. Once again, congratulations and best of luck. Maybe it's not the last time we're talking to you here tonight. Maybe we're talking to you in victory lane at the end of all this.
I hope that's a good omen, Seth. Thank you.
John Godfrey, fan vote winner, and I want to say, was it Casey Kane that got a fan vote one year when they used to race at Charlotte, and he ended up winning the whole thing? So there you go. Maybe John Godfrey is the Casey Kane here tonight.
Maybe it could be channeling that Casey Kane energy as we get into the All-Star race. I mean, hey, at a track like Talladega, especially, and when you're considering the All-Star race as well, if you're in it, you can win. It doesn't necessarily matter where in the field you start or how you get in, as long as you have that opportunity. Be chomping at the bit to try to find yourself a big checkered flag at the end of the night.
Absolutely. Well, there is one last driver to award a spot in the All-Star race. Jack and I, we've been kind of back and forth here during these post-race interviews. We talked a little bit about this pre-race as well. We ended up having a total of 13 drivers that made it into the playoffs last season. All but one locked themselves into this year's All-Star race. This driver was up there in a transfer spot. He was battling to defend the transfer spot before he was involved in a wreck. But Jack and I have collectively agreed that this man is going to go all-star racing here. He is the commentator's fan vote winner. Let's see if we can dial him up.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Greg, it's the guys up here in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what. You had a great season last season. You were a playoff contender, had a fast car tonight. You were in a transfer spot. We saw you defending, blocking, trying to keep that transfer spot. Ultimately, car got torn up, but I'll tell you what, get out the backup car because you, my friend, are going all-star racing. Jack and I collectively have voted you as the commentator fan vote.
I appreciate you guys voting for me. That means a lot, Steph.
We know that you're fast at these super speedways, and you kind of showed it there in that All-Star Open. So, how much speed's the backup car going to have? Do you think?
Well, maybe it's gonna have some in it. I just got to make the right moves, man. I'm not getting a spot to where I'm gonna get took out or take somebody out, or make some mistake and some bonehead move or something.
When we saw you there involved in that wreck, you were trying to hold on to that third and final transfer spot. So we were talking about you were probably in the toughest position because first and second place, they know they got a little bit of wiggle room. When you're in that third and final transfer spot, you got everybody else behind that's gunning for that position and an opportunity to lock themselves into the All-Star race. Now everything kind of changes a little bit. Now everybody's gunning for that top position. Does that make it a little easier to approach this All-Star race as opposed to the position you were in the open?
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to worry as much. I should have stayed where I was at when I was in third place on the bottom line. I should have never moved high and got out of my spot. When I did that, that really messed me up. I should have just stayed there
Well, Greg,
and
once
just
again,
rolled it out.
well, hey, Greg, I mean, once again, though, congratulations. We're going to get to see you do some all-star racing here in the main event. I wish you the best of luck, and we'll let you get back to it. Maybe get a little bit more practice in here, work with some teammates or some friends out there in preparation for this upcoming 47-lapper. But before we do, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
I want to thank you guys, man. That means a lot to vote me in. It means a whole lot more than you guys know. I'd like to give a shout out to Denny Carroll. He's like family to me. I didn't get to go to the funeral today, and I'm really sorry. I didn't get to go. His sister passed away, and my wife didn't get home in enough time for me to go. And I really hate I missed it. But sometimes life gets in the way, you can't help things. But I prayed for him all week, I've been thinking about his family, and they're like my family. So think about him, guys, and I'd like to thank all the admins and you guys for coming out here and doing what y'all do.
Well, Greg, congratulations once again. Best of luck here in this upcoming All-Star race. Maybe this isn't the last time we're talking to you here tonight. Maybe we see this Dark Horse Mustang parked in Victory Lane.
I hope so.
That's Greg Lovell. He will be the fifth
User
and
was moved
final
out of your channel.
transferee into this year's All-Star race, joining the fan vote winner, John Godfrey, and the three transferees from the All-Star Open, Dante Ricky, Javier Negron, and Doug Hewlick. Qualifying is currently underway for this upcoming All-Star race. We're going to take a quick FRN race break. We'll be back here with the drop of the green flag for 47 laps of action here from the Talladega Superspeedway as All-Star race Superspeedway style for RTG continues right after this. Welcome back, everybody, here to Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the 2026 Superspeedway All-Star Race for Rolling Thunder Gaming. We just moments ago concluded the All-Star Open. Last opportunity for drivers that hadn't already locked themselves into the All-Star race to do so via finishing in the top 3 positions. 2 drivers got in via the fan vote and the commentators vote, and we now have 19 drivers that will run for the 2026 checkered flag. If you've been with us since the start, we really appreciate you just joining us and tuning in to this main event. I'm Seth Cole, he's Jack Mitchell, and Jack, man, from what we saw in the All-Star Open, the playbook's wide open as to what we could expect to see here for 47 laps in the main event.
Yeah, this is going to be still a little bit shorter than the race length that we normally run here on Thursday nights, but it should still be absolutely incredible to see what all the strategies are and everybody trying to try these riskier maneuvers that we saw earlier tonight in the Open, trying to work their way in. And now you got a lot of the heavy hitters, a lot of the drivers that finished higher up in the points that picked up checkered flags in this past season of the Talladega Challenge here at RTG. So it should be a really exciting race.
We're going to be running through the different drivers that are in this field and the criteria and how they ended up locking themselves into this all-star race. Pretty much the way that you do so is either win a super speedway race between seasons 65 to season 67. That includes Mondays and Wednesday nights, the Bare Bones Racing Series and the Aero 8 Series, as well as the Thursday Night Talladega Challenge Series. Also, if you were a former Talladega Challenge Series champion from seasons 65, 66, or 67, or from those 3 seasons, if you are a bracket challenge champion, you are locked into this field. You also can get in being a former all-star race winner here, super speedway style, from the last 2 years. Brian Schilling will be the only defending winner from the past 2 years in this field. He took this event 1 year ago. We already documented back during the All-Star Open. Greg Palmer, he is currently overseas. He was the 2024 All-Star race winner, but he will not be in the field tonight. We also know that another driver that will not be in the field tonight will be Donnie Garrett, the driver of the 77. We found out in our chat earlier on tonight he's at a Jimmy Buffett tribute band concert, so while he's wasting away in Margaritaville, these drivers will get ready to hopefully not waste away here in Talladega, Alabama. But it will be an all Chevrolet front row with Ken Roberts on the pole position, Sean Prime on the outside of the front row. And it's got to be a weird sensation for these drivers as well in the Open and the All-Star race, because normally on Thursday nights, they don't get to qualify, so they got to qualify here tonight and determine their starting positions.
Yeah, a little bit of a different scenario than these drivers might be used to here, especially the smaller field is kind of something I'm keeping my eye on in this race. A lot less drivers to deal with on the racetrack, but that just means it's less drivers to work your way past to try to pick up this checkered flag. And at this point, you're not fighting for any kind of transfer spot. You're not fighting for any kind of bonus points or anything like that. All bets are off. It's the checkered flag and the steering wheel. So these guys are going to bring it here in just a few moments.
Let's see if we can take you through this 19-car field and tell you how each one of these drivers made their way in. Ken Roberts is going to start from the pole position, has 1 Superspeedway victory since season 65. Sean Prime, who'll line up to his outside, he has 2 Superspeedway victories in that span of time. Kelly Causey is going to be on the inside of row number 2. Kelly has 1 Superspeedway victory in the span of the last 3 seasons, and Joe DeSpirito, who we ended up actually seeing take the checkered flag in the season finale of season 67 of the Talladega Challenge Series, that along with 2 other Superspeedway victories has him locked into the All-Star race. Javier Negron, we saw him start the All-Star Open from the pole, brought it home second, so he was one of the 3 transferee drivers to race his way in. Chuck McClure, who won the big championship on Thursday nights 1 season ago, the Talladega Challenge Series Championship. He ended up winning that championship as well as season 66. He also had 6 victories during the span of those seasons, so he's looking for yet another Talladega win. Grant Wesley, Granthausen in that NOS Dodge Challenger. He had 6 Superspeedway victories during the span of the last 3 seasons. It locks him in. Josh Metallic will be alongside of him. Josh ended up having a total of, as I lost his name on the list, there he is, 1 Superspeedway victory during the span of the last 3 seasons. Jeremy Jeffries in the General Lee Dodge. He ended up having 5 Superspeedway victories, but he was also the season 65 Talladega Challenge Series champion. Alongside of him, going to be Bob Seminara in the 712 machine. Seminara, 2 Superspeedway victories in the last 3 seasons. Richard Martin, a former Talladega Challenge Series champion, in the number 43. DeMar had 3 Superspeedway victories over the last 3 seasons. Denny Carroll alongside of him, 1 Superspeedway win the last 3 seasons. Tim Nofsker, 5 Superspeedway victories over the last 3 seasons, alongside of John Godfrey, who got in via the fan vote. Doug Hewlett going to line up behind him. Hewlett got the 3rd and final transfer spot in the All-Star Open. Ulysses Sandoval back here in the 096. He was a 2-time Superspeedway winner during the course of the last 3 seasons. As we are underway and green, the last couple of drivers back there, Greg Lovell got in via the commentators' vote in that 880 machine. Then I believe that the car alongside of him is Dante Ricky. He won the All-Star Open to transfer his way in. And Brian Schilling starting shotgun on the field here tonight. He was this is a long list for him, 2025 All-Star Race winner, the Season 65 Bracket Challenge champion, Season 67 Bracket Challenge champion, and oh yeah, by the way, he had 4 victories during the course of the last 3 seasons as well. The only driver right now that could potentially go back-to-back in All-Star Race victories here, Superspeedway style.
Get this show on the road. Ken Roberts right now trying to fight his way back on the bottom, and it's going to be Sean Prime leading the first lap. One driver, we were talking about this a little bit pre-race, but one driver that I'm interested really is the 711 of John Godfrey. Obviously, we pointed out that a lot of the drivers that voted his way into the All-Star race via the fan vote, a lot of the fans that voted for him were drivers that were in this field here tonight. So kind of makes you wonder, if he's got a lot of friends that were voting for him to get into this race, he's going to have a lot of friends out there on the racetrack. And at Talladega, that's a good thing to have.
Certainly is. Just bear with us for a quick second, folks. We are going to have the screen freeze for a moment, but so that way you can see all 19 drivers that are on the racetrack. We're actually going to edit the ticker so that way you're able to see where they are all running during the course of this one here. It will not loop through the blank screen, which would have showed positions 20 through 30. We needed that for the All-Star Open. We don't need it here for the All-Star Race, but as we cut back to live, not much has necessarily changed. And look at the Chevrolet power up here. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Chevrolets lined up on the top side before you get to the Toyotas of Hewlett and Sandoval.
Who said Manufacturer Alliance is dead in NR 2003?
Certainly not here, at least tonight in RTG. As Sean Prime continues to show the way here in that number 15 machine. Not a driver that we normally end up seeing on the regular on Thursday nights, but I think it was a couple of seasons ago, I want to say season 65, we ended up seeing him pull off an incredible, miraculous victory on fuel. He was one of about a half dozen drivers coming off of turn 4 that all were half throttling, clutching, trying to get every last drop of fuel they could to the checkered flag. He throttled up first out of all of them, and he was able to pick up the victory in thrilling fashion. That was a playoff race as well, so we'll see. I don't know, our Monday night Speedway race end up being a fuel strategy race. It's not outside the realm of possibility. This All-Star race main event could come down to fuel as well.
To that end, everybody kind of taking things easy here in the early going. It's single file through most of the field. A couple drivers have tried to get a bit of runs up on the top side, but hasn't really worked out until you see these 3 cars that have jumped up to the top, one of them being outside pole sitter Ken Roberts, or I think he was the pole sitter Ken Roberts. Ellie Kazi right behind him.
We talked about the manufacturer alliance possibly with the Chevrolets. 4 Toyotas in this field, and it looks like they're all getting themselves organized. Doug Hewlett, Javier Negron, Ulysses Sandoval, all teammates out of Team Wrecking Ball. And Dante Ricky, the All-Star Open winner, another Toyota, so it looks like all those Camrys have found each other, might be working together during the course of this race. We saw Javier and Dante working really well together during the All-Star Open. Chuck McClure makes a move from third place up in front of Ken Roberts. We're going to start racing up here at the front of the field. Ken coming in with a lot of momentum, picking up the championship on Thursday nights. Going to be going into season 68, a back-to-back champion from seasons 66 and 67. We have to remember, too, for Chuck McClure, two entirely different paths to those championships. He ended up winning a race very early on in season 66 to lock himself into the playoffs, and then obviously was really good during the postseason. Last season, he didn't end up picking up a single victory until the playoffs began. He had to point his way into the postseason, but ended up finding himself in the right place at the right time in the final two races and picked up the title for back-to-back championships. I believe it was his, I want to say third, it could have been his fourth career championship. I'll have to check that out before the season 68 ends up kicking off here 1 week from tonight.
Tim Nofsker was the leading a handful of cars at the back of the field who were working their way towards the front on the bottom, and they have caught up to the race leaders as Nofsker getting that run up to fourth position. Ryan Schilling started at the back of the field, now worked his way up. Fifth car on the bottom line. Running about fifth or sixth right now in terms of actual track position. Crosses the line in fifth, now making his way up to the top. The high side going to have more cars here. They're going to try and get a bit of a better run here through 1 and 2.
Yeah, right behind him is Brian Schilling. We saw him basically debut that 3 doors down paint scheme in last season's Talladega Challenge finale. Looks like he is going to more than likely have that as a primary car going forward in season 68, and Tim Nofsker now going to get pushed to the lead. Nofsker's going to be interesting to watch not only here in this All-Star race, but at the start of season 68 as well. Really, really strong season 67. Ended up finding victory lane a couple of times, but man, if ever a driver had a tough round of the Final Four, it was Tim Nofsker. He ended up getting involved in an early wreck in the final race of the season and was left for about 2/3 of that race, damaged off the pace and just hoping the other championship 4 drivers would run into issues. He would ultimately finish 4th in the championship standings. So, we talk about drivers that end up finishing the season on a high note, wanting to continue that momentum. There's a lot of motivation for drivers that maybe don't necessarily finish out a season all that well too, and they want to come out the new season swinging.
These all-star race wins, obviously no points or anything like that on the line except bragging rights, but your name is attached to the all-star race forever when you get an all-star race victory, and a lot of drivers want to kind of etch their name in the history books in that regard, but also, like you said, a lot of momentum going into next season.
Now here's the thing too, we hear it all the time from drivers when they win on Thursday nights. They cherish every single checkered flag because they are so hard to get. Every driver that takes the green flag on a Thursday night can cross the line P1 when the checkered flag is waving. So in the fact that there's no guarantees with Superspeedway racing that by the time 2027's All-Star race rolls around that you've got yourself locked in with a victory, you win this All-Star race here tonight, you are automatically guaranteed locked in to the next 2 years' All-Star races. Ten laps complete. A lot of black and orange up here at the front of the field there with Nofsker, Schilling, and McClure, your top 3. Prime in 4th, and then side-by-side battle for the 5th position. Joe DeSpirito on the bottom, Kelly Causey on the top side, about halfway through a fuel run here. I think it was, I want to say, around lap 7 that the first caution came out in the All-Star Open, so we've bypassed that here. We heard Dante say that he was hoping here in this All-Star race we would trend a little bit more for green flag racing. That appears to be the case. We're seeing double wide racing, but nothing super aggressive, super crazy all the way through the latter portion of the top 5 to the rear of the field. So it will be interesting as we see this second line continue to charge forward. When does the priority change from trying to gain spots on that high line to trying to slot yourself down into an inside line position in preparation for maybe a cycle of green flag pit stops?
Well, as you said that, somebody, I think it was Bob Seminara, who just made that move from the top to the bottom. So I feel like maybe there are some drivers that are kind of hanging around in the back of the pack right now that might be content to just ride around the way things are and kind of make their way up through the field later on. As I say that, they're about to go 3 wide on the way back. Oh, here comes some drivers on the pit road.
Wow, this is way earlier than expected. On board with Sean Prime.
Oh, look out. The 41 car around on pit road.
Javi Negron had to come to a complete stop. Greg Lovell had to take evasive maneuvers. That's the entire field, isn't it?
That was everybody. I'll double check. I'm cycling through right now. And yeah, that was everybody.
I need to double check something here on my end. I thought it was 2x wear for the All-Star race. Maybe it was 3. It was 3x. That's an error on my part. I thought we were about halfway through a fuel run. No, folks, we were on fumes. That's why everybody just made the dive.
And Novsker barely going to win the race off pit road. Ben Roberts has that lead pit stall, but he comes out, I think, 4th at the end of that race off pit road. Chuck McClure looks like he's made his way up in the 2nd.
The drivers say they love that number 1 pit stall if you're making a pit stop under caution, because then all you have to do is beat the drivers that you're trying to race to that final commitment line. When it's under green flag conditions, you saw that rolling start, and Novsker was able to get from a stall further back. Ken Roberts took a little bit of time for him to get going, and he's going to come out, looks like, around the 5th position.
I think the problem for Novsker now is that he got out in front of everybody all by himself, and he's going to be a sitting duck for when the rest of the field catches up to him in just a moment here. And there they go, right by him.
Yep.
No, not everybody.
I almost wondered if they were going to try and pick him up there, but there was just too much momentum, too much difference of speed. You see Brian Schilling's going to go up there and try and help Tim Nosker, but look at the positions he's losing as a result.
He is going to get a little bit of help, but yeah, we've kind of seen some incidents actually that took place in the open a few moments ago that were the results of drivers directly behind another driver just getting a little too good of a run. As look at that, I think that was Grant Wesley and somebody else made the jump up to the high side. I think it was Bob Seminara.
Well, I feel dumb for the reason of not checking the fact that it was 3x wear, but I love the fact that I kind of didn't see that, because not very often do we get to see what the drivers experience in the cockpit and just how close it is when they're coming to pit road. I mean, Sean Prime, talk about being between a rock and a hard place. You're braking for the drivers in front of you. You're hoping the drivers behind you brake, and it gets wadded up pretty quickly when you get to that entry commitment line.
Yeah, sometimes a little too quickly for some drivers, because we saw Denny Carroll go around. Denny looks like he's recovered the race car, but running all by himself right now in 17th.
It's a bunch of drivers that are kind of on an island of their own. There's Javier Negron. He was 2nd in the All-Star Open to transfer his way in. We saw him have to kind of come to a complete stop when the incident on pit road happened in front of him. And Ulysses Sandoval is also a long ways back here as well. He is running last of the 19 drivers. Doug Hulick is trying as best he can to stay latched onto the tail end of the field. He's right now in 14th. That last time by, he got a heck of a draft lap. Not so much this time, but he might still be in the slipstream of the 43. Now there's Greg Lovell. Saw him kind of have to get woed up with that incident happening ahead of him. He's currently in the 15th position, and John Godfrey there as well. Both of the fan vote drivers, that pit stop did not go their way.
And Roberts making his way to the bottom of the racetrack. It looks like the top side has lost some drivers here, and John Prime going to push Roberts to the race lead for the time being. But, you know, Chuck McClure going to fight around those Oscar. Oh, and more cars.
At least 4 there at the initial, a couple more afterwards with Ricky and Martin. Looks like Seminara, Metallic, Jeffries, and Schilling were the initial 4 there that started this. And I'll tell you what, those 5 drivers that we were looking at that had lost the draft, all 5 of them a collective sigh of relief because this will catch them all back up. But a tough break there for a number of heavy hitters here. Now the question is just how much damage was sustained in that tri-oval wreck.
There is heavy rear damage right now. I'm looking at Tim Nofsker. The rear of his car is torn up and caved in.
They were trying to make something happen on that top side, and unfortunately, it didn't go to plan.
A couple of cars right before he went around. It looked like there was a couple of cars that kind of wiggled up out of line, and he didn't really stay in line with them.
We talk about it all the time. Daytona, Talladega, the tri-oval is one of the most sensitive parts of the racetrack. It's not a straightaway. It's not really a corner. And the cars are extremely light. You see right there, yeah, they're just kind of all... I don't know if there was a checkup, yeah, or chain reaction, maybe bumper grab that led to the stack up, but you saw movement really all the way up there from that second car in line, Kelly Causey, all the way back through the rest of that outside lane. Get another shot of it here. Watch the red car up on the top side, Kelly Causey. And then Bob Seminara, just nothing he could do. He gets hit in the left rear quarter panel. And this ended up involving a half dozen drivers, as you saw just on the tail end of that. We'll now get a camera focused on the 84 of Dante Ricky, as well as the 43 of Richard Martin. They were just behind this, and I think this might have been contact between the two as they were both trying to avoid the incident.
I was going to say that might have been a reaction to everything that went down. Yeah, it was. The 43 of Richard Martin looked like he got knocked below, maybe by the 24 of Joe DeSpirito, and then he went back up or into traffic, and there was nothing he could do about it.
As soon as that car came up from the apron back onto the bank, and it just kind of snapped him around. He was trying to keep it down there. I think when that left front clips the grass, just overcorrected, sends him up right in front of the All-Star Open winner. That's going to be our first caution of the All-Star race. It's going to involve a total of 6 drivers. No surprise, everybody, I believe, came to pit road with the exception of Bob Seminara. Seminara is actually going to stay out here, maybe pit second time by. Maybe a fuel play right here for him. Then again, as well, he was involved in the wreck, so... I don't know exactly what the gamesmanship is currently for him, but Ken Roberts on back. They all did hit pit road, and a bunch of them are coming down again.
Split strategies, handful of drivers staying out. Almost wonder if a couple of them are going to take the opportunity to get just a little bit more repair time, too, because despite that heavy contact in the tri-oval, nobody has retired just yet.
So I'm going to go for maybe some extra damage repair, as you said. I think the majority of the front runners coming down to top off the fuel tank. We know that these drivers now with the 3X wear that they're able to get roughly about between 10 to 12 laps of fuel. We're going to be going back green at the completion of lap 19. So we're looking at least, well... potentially a 2-stop race to the finish. I don't know if you can save the 2 or 3 laps you would be short to make it on one more stop, but I think that's what a bunch of those drivers are pitting now for, just in case that's a scenario for later on. So Joe DeSpirito is going to be our race leader. We go back green with Doug Hulick, Greg Lovell, Denny Carroll, John Godfrey, your top 5. Dante Ricky is going to line up in 6th. And those 6 drivers elected not to come down and top off on the fuel tank. Sean Prime, Chuck McClure, Grant Wesley, Kelly Causey are going to be your top 10 for this upcoming restart. Want to remind everybody again that this is basically the off-season, if you will, for the RTG drivers, the conclusion of Season 67, now leading into the start of Season 68. And the Flatout Racing Network is going to be bringing you coverage of a few of those season openers. Kicking off this coming Monday night, we'll be covering the season opener of the Bare Bones Racing Series, as they'll be in the Lone Star State at the 1.5 Mile Texas Motor Speedway. Then Wednesday nights, we're covering the opener for the Aero 88 Series Short Track Racing at the Evergreen Speedway. And then, of course, our conglomeration with Tarnation TV will be bringing you the first race of Season 68 of the Talladega Challenge Series right here, this mod, this racetrack, Thursday night on Flatout Racing Network and Tarnation TV simulcasted. So be sure to join us next week as we get ready to officially christen the 68th season of Rolling Thunder Gaming action as green flag back in the air. Despirito, who again, remember, had the last Superspeedway victory here in the finale on Thursday nights, gets us back into turn 1.
Like Hewlick and me, a little bit eager to lead that high side going through 3 and 4 here. Hewlick, again, the driver who earned the last transfer spot in the Open. Hasn't lost too much ground to Greg level just yet. It could be side by side. Now they could be 3 wide for the lap lead, maybe 4.
Chuck McClure almost up into the wall. That looked eerily similar to the incident we had in the All-Star Open when Greg Lovell and John Godfrey ended up going up that high through the tri-oval. It ultimately led to a wreck over into turn 1. Fortunately, they were all able to give the space necessary to avoid a caution here.
I'll just say, thankfully, Talladega has enough space to be able to do that. If we were here at a track like Daytona or something, there would have been no chance.
Not to say they wouldn't have tried that move if we were at
No.
Daytona.
I'm just saying there's not enough space at Daytona. But with this being the All-Star race and nothing but bragging rights on the line, you never know.
Well, the good news, at least so far, all drivers involved in that wreck, looks like they are still up to speed, still in this lead pack. All those stragglers we had at the conclusion of the green flag pit stop cycle are up here as well. So that last time by, all 19 drivers crossed underneath the flag stand. Less than 9/10 of a second separation from front to back.
Yeah, I'm only going to be really curious to see, I think, if any of these drivers, it looks like that the 088 car of Tim Nofsker had significant rear end damage, enough for them to have to actually completely tear that back bumper off of the race car. So we'll see if he's able to maintain the draft, but so far, so good.
Got our camera focused here on Jeremy Jeffries, Chuck McClure. A couple of drivers who have won championships on Thursday night over the course of the last 3 seasons. Chuck the last 2. Jeremy Jeffries, season 65, Talladega Challenge Series champion. And going back to your point there about the damage of Tim Nofsker, we've seen in the past where drivers, if they have the rear end damage, they can still remain competitive. I myself can attest to that. Got involved in a wreck, had the fuel cell showing, still brought it home in the 6th position in a Superspeedway race. So Nofsker's not out of it yet. It's really when you get that front end damage that you really have to be concerned, that aero damage and that straight line speed. As now we're seeing Nofsker fade back a little bit here. We'll see if he's able to stay in touch with Ulysses Sandoval and the tail end of this group. But nobody here tonight seems like they want to be in ride mode. We have seen so many drivers slide up to that third line trying to get something going. Kelly Causey, the most recent driver, and now looks like Chuck McClure wants to join that party.
Yeah, I was reacting to there being a little bit of a chain reaction on the high side as Grant Wesley trying to make a move on Sean Prime for second, but Sean had said nothing doing, and now Chuck McClure going to be working his way up towards the front of the field in third. Spiritus still leading.
During the course of last season, I think there was only 2 races where we didn't have 40-plus drivers show up. Just about every race during the course of the season, regular season race or playoff race, ended up having full fields. Multiple occasions where drivers had to be sent home because there just wasn't enough slots for everybody to be able to race. Obviously, not quite the same amount of energy when you're in a field about half that size here in the All-Star race, but in terms of momentum, what could a victory here tonight do for a driver that's looking to run for not only a playoff spot, but for a championship in the upcoming 68th season of the Talladega Challenge Series?
I don't think it's necessarily the same as winning a race when you have a full 40-car field, but I feel like it feels really good just to get a checkered flag. I mean, we've talked about before how drivers kind of cherish these Thursday night checkered flags just because it's so hard to be able to win an unpredictable race at Talladega. And I feel like getting a win of any kind, really, it kind of puts you in that rarefied era if you were able to find that checkered flag, and that can do wonders for your mentality and your momentum going forward.
We saw Dante Ricky dominate the All-Star Open, led 20 of the 29 laps. It's been a little bit all across the board here in terms of laps led so far in this All-Star race. Right now, Joe DeSpirito has led the most at 7. Chuck McClure, should he hold the lead this time by, he will join DeSpirito at 7 laps led. You then got 5 laps led for Sean Prime, 5 laps led for Tim Nofsker, and then 1 apiece for Ken Roberts and Bob Seminara. There's not yet been a full-fledged dominating car out in clean air, and maybe a big reason for that is, of course, as well, the 3 times where not everybody really wanting to be that lead car, use up more fuel, especially if the numbers, as we're looking at them right now, are literally coming down to maybe drivers having to save about a lap and a half of fuel to be able to make it on one more pit stop instead of having to come down pit road for a splash in the closing stages.
I'm seeing a handful of drivers start to really navigate their way to the bottom of the racetrack. I wouldn't be surprised if the radios started lighting up soon. A lot of other drivers are kind of just letting them make their way down there.
We'll definitely get a clear idea of who potentially can make it, who cannot. The target lap for these guys more than likely going to be somewhere around lap 36's completion. If we end up seeing drivers make the dive onto pit road prior to that, they're probably going to have to pit one more time after that, and it'll probably be somewhere in the vicinity of 2 laps to go. As to your point, they have literally, I mean, there's maybe a couple of cars up there on that top side. Javier Negron, Josh Metallic saying, hey, make some room, please.
They might be trying to make room for them, but I don't think both of those cars are going to get that spot at the same time.
First cycle of green flag pit stops, we saw everyone come to pit road together. There was no split strategy of pitting a lap earlier or a lap later. All 19 cars converged on pit road at the same time. Do we see the same here, or do you think that since we did see a little bit of an incident at the tail end of that pack the first time round, other drivers are thinking, maybe coming all together isn't the safest idea for me?
I'm thinking they might be splitting their strategies after all, because I just saw Grant Wesley jump out of line there, work his way up to the high side, maybe trying to find some momentum that way. So maybe there might be some drivers thinking about pitting at different times than the others.
Just been keeping an eye towards the tail end of the pack. Tim Nofsker's still in touch with Ulysses Sandoval. He's been able to draft up alongside of Ulysses a couple of times here, but that was when they were racing side by side. Now they're almost strung out single file. There's a trio of drivers trying an outside line here a little further back.
A couple more drivers are.
Jeremy Jeffries, Brian Schilling, and Ulysses Sandoval. This might help Nofsker still stay in the draft, but we're going to have to wait and see.
I'm seeing radios lighting up. I think we're getting pit stops this time by.
Wouldn't be surprised if Chuck McClure might be one of those because he's led a majority of this run. Nope. Spirito,
24.
Godfrey, Demar, Seminara, and Nofsker. So only 5.
Spirito does not surprise me. He's been running out in front for most of this green flag run, or near the front, so he's been having to put a lot of work in on that race car.
This is the 4th version of Talladega Superspeedway here for RTG. A widened pit road. And we saw John Godfrey, the man who designed that widened pit road, use the extreme outside lane. And see, along with those others, came down that time by. Expect to see a number of other drivers on pit road this time around. Here comes McClure, and, well, almost everybody else. Wow, Jeremy Jeffries. Ooh, I don't know if he made the cone.
I was watching from above. He might have just barely made the cone, but it was really close, and he might get busted for speeding too. I don't know. That was really tight on the pit road.
He was out into the grass. Metallic was out into the grass. That was the whole rest of the field that came to pit road that time. Yeah, with the camera shot that we had, it looked like maybe Jeremy straddled the cone. I don't know if having left sides to the left of that commitment cone is enough for you to avoid getting a 30-second penalty. We'll obviously have to wait and see, but I kind of like the strategy that those other group of drivers prior had, because not nearly as congested, not nearly as many drivers that you have to maneuver around. We'll have to see, though, if they've got enough numbers to maintain or gain track position once the cycle is complete.
Sean Prime actually beat Chuck McClure off of pit road there. Let's see where they are in relation to the leaders. And yeah, here comes Spirito on the outside, though. And I don't think they're going to catch up to the leaders just yet here.
They might be able to get up into maybe the top 5 here, but I think everybody's going to be up to speed by the time they have any thoughts of going for the top position. I think they're up to speed right now, actually. Yeah, Despirito, I think the highest he's going to get to is 5th, at least for the moment. Actually, correction, make that 6th. I did notice that these 3, Despirito, Martin, and Nofsker, they were all able to get together. Bob Seminara and John Godfrey, who were also a part of that pit party, they were not able to leave with the others, so they will more than likely fall into the category that a number of drivers were in after the first cycle of hoping for a caution to be able to get back up here into the fight. But as we look at the ticker here, 33 laps about to be completed of 47. Yeah, we're nowhere close to being able to make it on fuel. We've got one more trip to pit lane for all of these drivers before the checkered flag's coming out.
Almost wonder if some of these drivers might be hoping that that comes via caution, because then you can just all make your way onto pit road, assuming you survive the caution, and then be in a better spot. But I don't know. That's the unpredictability of Talladega. You just never know when the caution flag is going to come out and mess with everybody's strategies, or they're going to have to all make their way on the pit road under green flag conditions once again.
Doug Hewlett crossed the line in 15th. Looks like he is the trailing car of the lead pack. Dante Ricky, who burned it down here earlier on tonight, winning the All-Star Open. He's looks like lost touch with the lead group. Same for the Open runner-up finisher, Javier Negron. There's Seminara I was talking about. I saw him lose touch with the draft, and looks like John Godfrey has as well. Back-to-back slow pit stops for the 7-Eleven car. Second time he's found himself in this scenario, and this might be an even worse scenario for him, because I think he's about 3/4 of a lap down.
So he would definitely be one of those guys hoping for a caution, as long as he is not the one who causes the caution. Now everybody's single file in the front. That won't last long, I don't think.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm almost wondering if right now everybody knows the scenario that they're still going to have to come to pit road at least one more time. So their thought process is, let's get ordered into single file formation. Let's not put ourselves at any unnecessary risks. And let's try and get to that final stop. Well, what do I know? I'm a commentator. I'm not a driver. These guys are... These racers will race. And Josh Metallic says, no, I'm not riding in line. I'm going up top. Despirito says, all right.
It's the All-Star race. Try something new.
Whoa!
Ooh.
Big save there by Richard Martin. Looked like he and Jeremy Jeffries had the same idea. Both wanted to go low. Jeremy was there. Martin had to react, and great job of hanging on to that dodge, but one slight miss over correction, and that car would have been up into the outside wall.
There are some heavy hitters right now in this top 5. John Prime in front. Defending Talladega Challenge champion in season 67, Chuck McClure, Grant Wesley, Kelly Causey, Jeremy Jeffries, Denny Carroll. All big names up here inside this. I said top 5, but we won't write off Denny Carroll either. I'll say top 6 and more drivers behind them. I mean, everybody's in the All-Star race for a reason. It's a really competitive field.
Just saw John Godfrey get put a lap down. Also saw Bob Seminara coming off of pit lane. It looks like the fuel window is open to make it the rest of the way. So the 712 made the dive to pit road, got the tank full of fuel, and now potentially could be hoping for a yellow flag. Now, Seminara is the only driver, well, actually, correction, John Godfrey now falling a lap down. So those two are the only two off the lead lap. For Superspeedways, there are 2 lucky dogs awarded, so should nobody else fall -1, a caution would put them back on the lead lap. I'm a little curious about the strategy there for Seminara, though, because, yeah, he lost the lead pack, but he was still on the lead lap. By pitting, he falls a lap down. If the caution comes out, he'd get the free pass, but that doesn't mean that he would cycle up to the front of the field. He would actually start at the tail end of the field, so I don't know what kind of a Hail Mary strategy he's going for, but I'm not necessarily certain it's going to work out the way he planned, even if he does get the caution that he's looking for. Ken Roberts saw that second line forming up there. He'll pull up in front of Doug Kulik. And you see these drivers right now, we've seen this a lot in the past, where they'll race side by side, but they won't run the bottom and the middle. No, they all share the middle groove. You can see the 4 distinct grooves separated by those hash marks, the second and third groove in between those hash marks. And these drivers know that that middle line is more often than not the faster way around the racetrack. You don't have nearly as much push-up and scrub-off speed. You get better corner exit. So they're all sharing that piece of real estate, all while still running side by side at, oh yeah, by the way, nearly 200 miles per hour.
It's incredible the ability these guys have to be able to wheel these race cars here, albeit virtual race cars, but it's still impressive nonetheless to see everybody making these decisions at that rapid speed. Saw Sean Prime just a few moments ago. Kind of looked like he was about to wiggle up out of line, and McClure was right there to take advantage, but Prime was able to recover the race car. Now trying to almost look like he was trying to block both lanes at the same time.
Trying to straddle the middle there. Saw that momentum by the 55 of Ken Roberts, but almost immediately. Oh, well, I was going to say, it looked like that outside line evaporated. That's because the 39 of Josh Metallic disappeared for a moment. Now reappears there, third car in that outside line, that Aero McLaren Papaya Orange Chevrolet. But Ken Roberts started this race from the pole position, and right now he holds the fastest lap of the race. 47.376, equating to 201.932 miles per hour. Scoring is showing a black flag for the 08 of Tim Nofsker. I believe he and Brian Schilling just hit pit road moments ago, and the speeding police nabbed the Amp Energy Chevy.
Another tough break there for Nofsker, already running without that rear bumper, and now a speeding penalty to boot.
And that's not going to work out for the defending All-Star race winner Brian Schilling either, because there goes his drafting partner. There you see the field's going to go by him and put him a lap down. Schilling was going for the All-Star race sweep here this week after he had the tires and the fuel to pick up the checkered flag at Iowa Speedway earlier on this week, Monday night. But right now, got to have a lot go his way here with 5.5 laps remaining if he's going to double down with All-Star race checkered flags.
This is a unique scenario right here because you were just talking about how you run that lower part of the middle groove on the racetrack. That's kind of the faster way around the racetrack. That's the reason why I think this middle, or this top line rather, is competing right now with this bottom line, even though the bottom line has more cars in it. They're not running the faster way around the racetrack. They're running right below it in the bottom groove, and what's allowing this upper lane right now to kind of get the momentum and stay with these guys. And you just saw another car, I think it was Richard Martin, join the latter half of that row, and everybody doing what they can on the top of the racetrack.
It's going to be 4 to go this time by. We're entering into the vicinity where drivers are going to have to pit. Here comes Prime.
Here they go.
Yeah, Prime had to. He's led most of this. So he had to pit. DeSpirito and Martin coming in behind him. Remember, DeSpirito and Martin, they were part of that first group on the previous cycle of pit stops. So no surprise they're coming in this time. So yeah, nobody's going to be able to make it on fuel. Looks like Knopfsker is going to be the first retiree. When he came down pit road to serve the first black flag, it didn't clear. You got another speeding penalty, and the 088 has been disqualified. Again, that's going to hurt, obviously. Knopfsker had a fast car tonight, caught up in that incident around halfway. But with it being an all-star race, you don't feel it nearly as badly knowing that you didn't lose out on a championship, you didn't lose out on points.
If you were to suffer a DQ during an actual points-paying race, that would be devastating. As here comes the entire lead pack on the pit road.
Money
10
stop.
out of 4.
Oh,
Mistake
no!
here. Around goes McClure.
Chain reaction, Wesley to Roberts to
Oh,
McClure, who
my.
then grabbed the 00 of Kelly Causey, flung him across pit road into Ulysses Sandoval, Jeremy Jeffries, Greg Lovell, and oh yeah, by the way, folks, that's all down off the racing surface. There'll be no caution for everything we just saw. Causey's car's toast.
That was a complete chain reaction. As we saw Chuck McClure going around, and when he tried to recover it, more cars got involved, piled in, and it was complete chaos on pit road.
Dante's out of fuel. He's just barely going to make it back around here to pit road.
00 is killed. He
Doug
didn't park at his own pit stall.
Hulick might end up being the leader of
Maybe he
this
did.
race.
I was wrong. He did park in his own pit stall. Yeah, the Doug Hulick being the leader. If that were the case, that would be quite something. After he survived the chaos that ended the All-Star Open, he could be the one who survives the chaos at the end of the All-Star race. But not over just yet. Got the 55 of Ken Roberts right on his rear bumper.
We called it the money stop, and for a lot of drivers, it didn't go well. You saw him coming off of turn 4. You're not going to see him crossing the start-finish line inside of the top 5. Sean Prime, who pitted from the race lead. Black flag speeding on pit road. He's just now coming down to serve that. Kelly Causey, as you mentioned, out of the race. Dante Ricky out of the race. No fuel in the 84.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say that Sean Prime looked like he was hot pitting, and when it looked like he had done it just a tick too late. But it looks like these 6 cars right now at the front are gonna be left to settle this thing out amongst themselves.
Black flag for Javier Negron as well. So 2 of the 3 transferee drivers from the All-Star Open finding issues here in the closing stages. The last driver to transfer his way in, Doug Hulick, out in front, showing the way, and 2.66 miles left to determine it. Looks like we've got 5 drivers in the conversation. White flag in the air, 1 to go in the All-Star race.
Roberts going to go to the bottom, try to take advantage of Hulick immediately. Hulick not going to get any help on the top in the immediate moments there. But he is in the preferred line around the racetrack right now, so he's not going to fall off that much.
Watch the 24 of Despirito. He's got Bob Seminara, lap car behind him, trying to help push. I think the 24 is out of fuel. Yeah, 24 just ran out of fuel. It's down to 3 drivers now. Roberts, Wesley, and Hewlick. Wesley looks top, looks bottom, not there, and not enough help. Ken Roberts, coast to coast, pole to win, takes the All-Star race for 2026.
And Grant Wesley just ran out of time, tried too many options there at the end, but that was definitely one of the more chaotic endings. I'd like to, when we get a moment, I'm sure you'll agree, we need to go back and see what took place on pit road there, because I think that was kind of the deciding factor and why there was so little cars left to battle it out for the checkered flag at the end. But great showing by Ken Roberts as he picks up this checkered flag and a ton of momentum going into next season.
Absolutely. Well, I said earlier on tonight that the Speedway race, the All-Star race, came down to tires and fuel. This one came down to fuel. Saw a number of drivers losing momentum as their cars were gasping for just fumes there on that final lap. I think a bunch of drivers came down, went with splash only, and may not have had enough to be able to come around to the checkered flag. Also had a number of other drivers that ended up getting black flags during the course of their pit stop, so the finishing results might look a little jumbled. Jeremy Jeffries, we mentioned Javier Negron, Ulysses Sandoval, they all got hit by the speeding police. Just shows the lengths these drivers were willing to do for the ultimate risk-reward in trying to come out on top here and take this All-Star race. But how about Ken Roberts, who coming into this race locked himself in by picking up only one Superspeedway victory between seasons 65 to 67. And he's now got himself locked into the next 2 All-Star races with this victory here tonight. Not easy to go pole to win at a Superspeedway, but he did just that.
Pole to win really any time is very impressive, but doing it at a track like Talladega through as hectic of a race as that was is certainly quite the feat. So congratulations to Ken Roberts, and I think now we'll go back and see what went down on pit road.
I mean, just about everything ends up happening behind him. Let's go to the aerial view and dissect this, because this might be exactly what allowed Ken Roberts to win this race. All the rest of his competition running into problems here. Grant's going to get into his left rear. I mean, at this point, how is Ken Roberts even still in the conversation for this win? A great job of saving it.
And again, you see the 23 of Doug Hewlick just barely avoids the contact. My goodness. And then, yeah, nowhere else for those cars to go as they try to go to the high side to try to get around Chuck McClure. But just a chain reaction as they all kind of clog the high side on pit road and can't quite get there.
I mean, that is crazy. We've seen, warp wrecks before. I can't really recall ever seeing one of that magnitude on pit road. Like the 17 literally grabbed the 00 of Kelly Causey and threw him across pit lane into Jeremy Jeffries and Ulysses Sandoval.
Jeez. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that before. Where one car just literally grabs another car, tosses him into 2 others, and not a whole lot of pavement on pit road to try to get around it. It's just all-out chaos from there.
And coming into this All-Star race, similar to what it was in the All-Star race on Monday night, it is a one incident and park scenario. And with what we just showed right there, that incident on pit road, Grant Wesley initiated the contact that led to the wreck. He would have had to have at least served a pass-through penalty, did not. So as we bring up the final finishing results, we have just gotten word from administration that our podium finishers are going to be the 55 of Ken Roberts, Doug Hewlick will move up to second, and Denny Carroll will get the third and final podium position. So those will be the drivers we will be talking with. But in the case of Grant Wesley, I think what his thought process was even if the incident is pinned on me, just in the chance it's not, might as well race for this victory, because again, it's the All-Star race. Drivers are going to be more willing to go for those risks than they would be in a normal weekly series.
Absolutely. I think if this was a regular points paying race and you kind of have that doubt if whether or not you were involved in that incident or whether it was going to be pinned on you, I think that he would have probably approached it with a little bit more caution and just said, nah, not today. I'll kind of back out and see what I can do about it later on in the race if it was earlier on or maybe next week or whatever it was. But here in the All-Star race, you might as well go for it. You never know what can happen. You never know what the admins are going to determine. So I can't say I blame Grant for that at all.
You wanted parity, you certainly got it. I mean, it's all over the place in terms of where these drivers started to where they finished, the different scenarios that got them there. Sean Prime, who led the most laps, ended up finishing last car in the lead lap in 9th position. I mean, look at the reasons for retirement here. Disconnected for Martin, disconnected for Sandoval. No fuel for Dante Ricci. Nofsker with disqualification. You normally would not see these type of reasons for retirement. You probably won't see them this coming Thursday night going forward here in the weekly Talladega Challenge Series season. But here tonight, drivers literally played the odds, trying to see if they would hit pay dirt, and Ken Roberts came out on top. We'll be talking with him down in victory lane in just a moment, as well as the rest of our podium finishers, as we will now head into our FRN post-race wind down. And let's get a hold of the driver that brought it home, P3 here tonight's dial up, that 41 of Denny Carroll.
User was moved to your channel.
Denny, it's the guys up here in the FRN booth. You got a copy?
Howdy.
Man, I'll tell you what, we knew coming into tonight it was going to be must-see. Not a whole lot up for grabs, not a whole lot at stake. So drivers, they were going to be willing to do whatever it took to try and be the first one back to the checkered flag here on All-Star Race night. You cross the line in 4th. We have you on the podium in the official finishing results. Trying to get up there in the conversation in the closing stages, but different drivers with the different scenarios there in terms of fuel. Where were you at, and what could you maybe have done a little bit different on that final pit stop to be up there in that lead pack?
I didn't have no luck on pit road tonight. There's the last pit stop, something happened in front of me, and I almost had to stop to get around it, and that's why I lost those guys. But I just took a half a tank. I took a half a can and was hoping it was enough, and it was like a half a lap to the good for me.
Obviously here tonight with that 3 times wear and 3 times fuel consumption kind of throws a little bit of a monkey wrench into what you drivers are used to on a weekly basis on Thursday nights. How much did that kind of toy with your brain and trying to figure out strategy? How much you kind of rely on others and try to follow their strategy tonight?
Well, it was normal to me. I think the Friday series we race in at Talladega is 3X, so it was normal for me. I do it every Friday.
Obviously, didn't have to race your way in via the All-Star Open. You were already locked in with your victory on Thursday nights a couple of seasons ago. You were consistent last season as well, weren't able to find that checkered flag. Jack and I, we were talking about how, in this type of a race, it's an entirely different animal than how drivers approach it when they're getting ready to run for a playoff spot or run for a championship. But with a podium finish here tonight, is there any way you can ride this momentum into starting Thursday night, the brand new season of the Talladega Challenge Series?
Oh, yeah. Bragging rights is more important than a trophy, I believe. I'm just, I just wanted to race tonight to keep my mind busy. I just lost my little sister and just trying to get all that off my mind. And I really enjoy racing with these guys, so I appreciate them letting me race with them. And thank you guys for what you do.
Well, we talked with Greg earlier on tonight, and he told us about what you're going through. So it's great to be able to see you finish out the evening here with a podium. Denny, obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. And we'll now give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs after your great run tonight in the All-Star race.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank RTG for letting me race with them, and just thank God for allowing us all to be here. And just, I'll see my little sister again one of these days. Everybody have a good night.
That's Denny Carroll, 3rd place here this evening in the All-Star race. Congratulations once again, and best of luck as the Talladega Challenge Series kicks off again a week from tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Denny Carroll going to be the
User was moved out of your
second highest
channel.
finishing Chevrolet. And this Toyota is going to find himself in between those bow ties. Let's dial up a driver that transferred in through the All-Star Open, made the most of it here tonight. Runner-up finish for Doug Kulik.
User was moved to
Hey,
your
Doug,
channel.
it's Jack and Seth up here in the FRM booth once again. You got a copy?
I got a copy, Jack and Seth. How are you guys doing? You enjoy that race?
Absolutely, and what a night for you, my friend. Podium finish in the All-Star Open, get that final transfer spot into the All-Star race, and then make the most for it here tonight. In the conversation for the win, you crossed the line third, but the 88's going to get put to the back, so you bring it home second place. So back-to-back podiums here for this All-Star race night. What little more do you need to get around the 55? Because it kind of seemed like different drivers went with different cans of fuel consumption there on that final pit stop. We saw some start to fall away on the final lap. Was it just a matter of you just didn't have the numbers to be able to get around, Ken?
My main mistake was letting Ken get under me. That was, you have to make that one move, and that was the move I didn't make, which let him under me. I mean, I ran out of gas going across the start finish line. I stayed under power the whole time. I did do a half can, and that was the plan. And, I should be in first, but I made a mistake, and that's how racing is. You don't make the move, you go to second or third.
When we talked to you after the All-Star Open, you talked about the prospect of working with teammates here in this All-Star race. We saw all the Toyotas lined up at one point, all four of you, but then as the race progressed, we ended up seeing some Toyotas run into some problems, and at some point it kind of turned into, I guess for you, friends where you find them. How were you able to make sure you executed during the course of the evening? Because a lot more trips to pit road than you guys are probably used to with the 3X Wear.
Most definitely, too many trips to pit road. I'm usually not very good, and I did something tonight I never have done, which is pit from the second row on that last pit stop. And I don't know who came in. I guess the 88 came in and bumped somebody, and they spun around, and I went from like 6th, 7th to leading. I was like, okay, this is different.
Going to ask you the same question that I asked Denny just moments ago. It's not a victory, but as I said, overall, really good night for you. Third place in the Open, second place here in the All-Star race. With a week from tonight, 68th season of the Talladega Challenge Series kicking off, what can the momentum of the good runs here tonight do for this 23 car going forward in the start of the new season?
There's definitely a confidence building, being able to run up front and stay up front. These guys are really good, and, they're consistent winners, many of them. And just to be, have that confidence level starting into the new year. I won Saturday's race at ASR, which was nice. And, it's just been a good week, and hopefully it continues into the seasons to come.
Well, Doug, congratulations on a great overall night for you. Able to race your way in via the Open, and a great performance here tonight in the All-Star race. Before we let you go, floor is yours once again for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Appreciate you guys again, RTG, for throwing this event. Thoughts and prayers are out there with Denny and his family at the loss of his sister. Thank you for all our armed services out there. And just thank God for having fun.
Well, that's Doug Kulik, runner-up finish here tonight in the All-Star race. Congratulations once again, and best of luck going forward here in the start of the new season next Thursday night.
10-4. Hey, and Rodney, of course, always painting this beautiful black flag Toyota Camry.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Doug Kulik, runner-up finish here tonight. Strong showing
User was moved out
for
of
the
your
Toyota
channel.
Camry, and a driver who, unlike his sponsor, was able to avoid the black flag. A lot of drivers unable to say that at the conclusion of tonight's race. Another driver that was able to avoid the black flag started on the pole. To answer Rodney's question, yes, Rodney, he still had the fastest lap at the conclusion of this race, and he's parked in victory lane. Let's dial up the driver, the number 55, Ken Roberts.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Ken, it's the guys up here in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Sure do.
Man, I'll tell you what. Execution seemed to be the name of the game here tonight, and you were able to do that in spades. You started this race from the pole position, had that coveted #1 pit stall, and ultimately parked this machine in victory lane. Over the course of the last 3 seasons, you only had one Superspeedway win that locked you into this All-Star race. Now this victory has you locked into the next 2 years' All-Star races, but man, talk to me about the adventurous night, because you only led 5 laps here this evening. You spent most of the race clawing to get back to the position you started from.
Yeah, it was a very up and down night. Like I said, started from the pole, stayed low. I watched the open race, and I thought the guys were going to get aggressive and start a third line right away. So I stayed down on the bottom. I was wrong. So kind of went back a little bit on that, and then that first pit stall under green is it's atrocious. I mean, you can come in, in the top 5, you'll come out 10th. So that was a little rough, and I think we only had the one caution, but yeah, just a lot of back and forth. I run with Kelly Causey and Chuck. We seem to get to the outside quite a bit tonight, and we were able to move up front. So, but all in all, it was a fun race. It was exciting, and we got down there to the end. I taking a splash. I was good. I did run out during the burnout, so the burnout was kind of sad.
Yeah, we were wondering just how close it was going to be on fuel, especially with the 3X. It sounds like some drivers elected to go with the splash, some drivers elected to go with a half can of fuel. For some it worked out, for some it didn't. Obviously, coming into tonight with it being the All-Star race, we kind of expected to see maybe a little bit more ramped up aggression out of drivers, because there wasn't as much to lose. There's no points on the line. There's no championship on the line. How easy was it to kind of get a sense of feeling of what this race was going to be like? Because when we talked with Dante after he won the All-Star Open, he was saying that he was hoping that transferring over here to the All-Star race, we'd see some more green flag racing. We definitely saw that, but that then led to a lot of drivers really having to traverse through the choppy waters of pit road.
Yeah, that last pit stop with Chuck and Grant. I just about got into the back of Chuck, and then I think Grant gave me a little bump from behind, kind of. Then that turned Chuck. So yeah, that kind of was a mess, and I wasn't sure how I was going to come out of that pit stop, but came out good. Came out with Doug, and I think Grant was behind us there. So it was the 3 of us, and just worked. It worked out good, but yeah, it was different tonight. A lot of the lanes were moving, and you'd see the guys in the middle, they would go to the bottom, and immediately the guys up on the high side would go right down to the middle lane. I mean, just like a perfect snake. So there was a lot of shuffling around, but it wasn't as aggressive as I thought it would be. After watching the Open, I thought the Open was pretty aggressive. The guys were really aggressive, especially there towards the end. I thought this race would be the same, but it wasn't as aggressive. So, but it was fun. It was a good time.
As I said, with winning this All-Star race, you're now locked into the next 2 Superspeedway All-Star races. As I mentioned, though, had only one victory in the last 3 seasons coming into this. So now that you've got yourself secured spots in the upcoming All-Star races, heading into the brand new season 68 of the Talladega Challenge Series, does that kind of free you up to maybe be a little bit more aggressive, try and see if you can find victory lane a little bit more often on Thursday nights?
Well, certainly going to try. I mean, this is a tough crowd. So I do plan on making all the races for season 68. So yeah, I'm going to give my best and see if I can get up there in the points and maybe get into the playoffs or something. But yeah, that's kind of the goal. And this right here is a nice shot in the arm to get the season started.
Well, we're looking forward to that. And as you say, yeah, a good way to kind of kickstart that momentum with the victory here tonight. Pole to win. Also netted the fastest lap during the course of the evening here as well. So certainly a lot of speed underneath the hood of that number 55. Ken, we'll let you get back to your celebrating here in just a moment. But before we do, floor is yours for Victory Lane. Thank you, sponsors and shoutouts.
I'd like to thank all the guys here at RTG. They put on it's first class operation, top to bottom. Prime and Shaq and Jeremy, Josh, Tim, Grant, all the guys, Rodney, all the guys that do the Thursday night. Appreciate all those guys and everything they do. Everything over here is, just first class. I'd like to thank you guys for covering the races. Cannot wait to watch this one. So I'd like to thank my teammates, John and Kelly. Rodney's on his way to Texas to watch the Texas race, and Palmer's over touring Europe somewhere. So hope he's having a good time. And Dennis and Dennis and Mark, they tried to make through the Open, and they ended up getting wrecked out. But good effort on their part. But Rodney for my paint. I mean, I love my Mountain Dew car. Both of them, the throwback and the green one. So, and just appreciate the good time.
Well, that's Ken Roberts. He got to burn it down briefly here at Talladega as he had enough fuel to be able to get to the checkered flag to claim the 2026 Superspeedway All-Star Race here for RTG. Congratulations once again, Ken, and best of luck here going forward, starting next Thursday night in the brand new 68th season of the Talladega Challenge Series.
I appreciate it. You guys, Seth and Jack, you guys have a good night.
Ken Roberts, your winner here this evening at Talladega, and also thanks to him too, because I was looking at the criteria of drivers that were locked into the All-Star race. Saw Rodney in our chat and was wondering why isn't Rodney on the racetrack. I forgot that I saw Rodney put out a post that he's heading down to the Texas Motor Speedway, going to be hanging out with the crew of Sam Mayer's O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. I still can't get used to saying that race car, so hope Rodney has a lot of fun down there in the Lone Star State, and we'll see him getting back behind the wheel of his number 38 next Thursday night as well. But I think across both the All-Star races, Monday Night Speedway All-Star race, tonight's Superspeedway All-Star race, Jack, I think that the old racing moniker, it's never over until the checkered flag wave, rings true in both cases. Entirely different fields, entirely different racetracks, entirely different scenarios. But ultimately, it all came down to really just who was able to execute the best, be in the right place at the right time, and just check all the boxes.
That old catchphrase is honestly the reason why I love racing. You just never know how things are going to play out until you see the very end of the race. You can always assume that one car might be in a possible position to win the race, then something terrible goes wrong on a white flag lap. We saw some drivers running out of fuel, things like that. All-Star race weekend chaos thrown into it. It was just, it just added all to the mix of unpredictability. We got a little bit of everything here tonight.
Certainly did. Well, it was certainly an exciting night from the All-Star Open to the All-Star Race. But now all the non-points fun, it's in the rearview mirror. Now it's time to go back to work and run for championships, as now we can officially say Season 68's respective weekly series have begun. And folks, we will be bringing you coverage of multiple of those during the course of next week, kicking off with Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Bare Bones Racing Series get their new season underway at the Lone Star State's mile-and-a-half Texas Motor Speedway. Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be coming to you from Evergreen Speedway for the Aero 88 season opener, and then, of course, simulcasting here on FRN and Tarnation TV. It'll be the season opener, Season 68's first race here at Talladega Superspeedway for the Talladega Challenge Series. So be sure to join us for that trifecta of broadcasts coming up next week as we ring in the brand new 68th season of Rolling Thunder Gaming. Well, Jack, it was an incredible couple of races here tonight at Talladega. Appreciate you in the booth. I know that you and I are going to be covering a number of those races during the course of next week, so looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Should be a fun few weeks. We had a lot of fun today. The All-Star race is always a heck of a good time, but yeah, as you say, we get to take the gloves off next week and get back to regular season points racing. Should be some good action coming up here next week.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for tuning to our coverage of the All-Star Open and the All-Star Race here tonight. Congratulations to Ken Roberts as he picks up the checkered flag here in the 2026 Rolling Thunder Gaming Superspeedway All-Star Race. For Jack Mitchell, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for joining us here on this Thursday evening. We'll see you guys next week as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.